Oh, Gingy, if I only had words, I would say all the beautiful things that I see when you're with me. Oh, my Gingy.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Danish jazz singer Mette Juul. We caught up with her from her home in Copenhagen, Denmark on April 20th, 2020 to talk about this new COVID-19 world we all live in and her fourth album that came out right before the pandemic on March 6th called New York to Copenhagen. She grew up in a small town and was the first in her family to get into music. She has a great story and a bright future ahead. Enjoy. First and foremost, thank you for reaching out and sending the music. I really enjoyed profiling you on the show, and I'm happy during this global pandemic you've taken a minute to kind of talk to me about your music and kind of what's going on.
Well, thank you for inviting me for this talk.
My pleasure.
I'm very happy that you presented my music.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been my pleasure. So exactly where are you in the world?
Well, right now I'm in Copenhagen, in Denmark, sitting in my music room.
Right on. How's everything going?
Well, everything's fine. Well, like you said, it's coronavirus, strange times. But I'm doing fine. I'm trying to get the best out of everything, really.
I think even having some things come back, like events that don't have fans, something that makes us feel like we're a part of the human race is going to be a big deal.
Yeah. Wow, it's really, it's going to take some time, and I think we need to prepare ourselves to get used to this new way of living for quite a while. I think maybe they are talking about a year from now, but it's just, I guess nobody really knows.
Yeah.
But you know what? I guess the only thing to do is to hope that we will learn something as a human race. That we have to take care of the climate changes and everything like that.
I agree.
Maybe we can't fly so much. Like we used to, and stuff like that. So.
Well, the one thing that's unique about you is that you have an album that's out during a quarantine time, and what's that like? How do you feel about that?
I feel in two ways, actually. First of all, I'm very grateful that I got to release my music just before all this began. New York Copenhagen was released March 6th. So, it was actually just in the beginning of it all. So, of course, it means that, on the other hand, I've had to cancel a lot of concerts and also interviews and other promotion things that I had to do. But I think I just have to be grateful that it's out there, Yeah.
So, talk to me a little bit about your path to jazz. Coming from Denmark, I know there is a great history of jazz there. From the American perspective. So talk to me a little bit about your childhood and how you got into music.
Well, actually, I'm the first musician in my family. I grew up in a little town in Jutland in Denmark. And my way into music was actually just listening to my mother singing at home. She didn't have any ambition whatsoever being a musician, but she was singing a lot in a very down-to-earth, joyful way, really. So she really inspired me to begin singing as a natural way of just being. It was my first step into music, and then I was a part of a school choir, and
right on.
I was inspired. Yeah.
So, who were some of the musicians that really inspired you in the beginning?
Well, later on, after my mother inspired me, it was Tracy Chapman, Ricky Lee Jones, and in my teens, Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell really inspired me to be more open-minded musically because I listened to her album Don Juan's Reckless Daughter, where she kind of mixes the more jazzy vibes with the singer-songwriter tradition, if you can put it that way. And that really opened up my mind and really spoke to me very deeply. And then later on again, I was getting more into the music business and was introduced to jazz music. Yeah.
What was the first live jazz show you saw that made you think, man, this is what I'd love to do?
Well, actually, when I was about 13 or 14 or something like that, I was taking a walk in Horsens, a Danish city. I was new in that town. We had just moved from a very peaceful place where you actually can't hear any concerts at all. So for me, it was a big city. But I was taking a walk and passed a school, and I heard live music. It might have been for the first time, actually, for me. And there was this concert with some kind of free jazz, I think, but I'm not sure. I think it must have been with the Danish percussionist Marilyn Masur, who actually used to play with Miles Davis. And I was totally taken by it. And I didn't know that this was going to be my path yet, but I think that it started some things inside me, yeah.
What do you like best about being a musician? I mean, think about maybe a show or some magic moments you may have had. What's the best part of being an actual musician?
Well, many things. But if I have to mention one thing, it must be, this moment on stage when the magic happens, the thing between the notes that we can't really define.
So, why do you love jazz?
Because you can't put it into boxes. You can't say, this is jazz. Jazz is, in a way, jazz is a way of living. Staying open-minded and, staying open-minded that everything is allowed and different genres can mix.
So, from your perspective in Denmark and just even overall, and I asked this prior to the quarantine, how healthy do you think jazz is in the world?
Well, it's a very good question, and it's a very big question, I think. I think jazz is extremely important for the world, actually, because are aware of it or not, if you listen to jazz, you hear that something else is going on that challenges our way of thinking. It's a way of being open-minded and doing things in new ways, which I find very important for the world, for the music scene, but also for us as human beings. Yeah, I believe that it can inspire us to do things in new ways.
We're going to eventually get out of the quarantine and the music's going to start back up, and it's still very bizarre to think that there just is no live music or anything. And I guess my question is, what revelations or realizations do you hope we as both musician and fan get from this experience when we return?
Well, most of all, that's how I feel anyway. We remember we really can't take anything for granted, and how privileged we are to have music, and how important it is to treasure music and to also for the politicians to support music, maybe. But for us as musicians to, for me anyway, it really reminds me what means something in this world. And music is really something that means something.
So,
you know what I mean?
yeah, I totally do. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
what have you been doing during quarantine as far as like making music, or how have you been creatively passing the time?
Well, first of all, I was shocked because everything was cancelled, and then after a while, I realized that okay, it's no good just to sit down and I have to get to work and to find new ways of doing things. So I've been listening to a lot of music that I've never had time to listen to before, to be inspired and then I've looked into some of my own songs that I'm working on, and I've also been teaching a little bit distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my final question to you is this: everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one that's living your life. So tell me, who do you think you are?
Wow. Who do I think I am? Well, first of all, I guess we never really know who we are because we keep on changing as human beings. But I hope to stay open-minded. And I do believe that I'm a person who likes to be open for changes, and I wish to keep on developing as a human being and as a musician as well, of course. Yeah. It's of course it's a difficult question. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and I always that's always my final question because it's always the most difficult. But hey, thank you again for taking some time out. This is an extraordinary time that I hope we don't ever have to revisit again, but I think it's good to talk about the music and have a little time away from, the headlines and all of that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest singers in Denmark, America, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Mette for her time, music, and energy. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.